Then I directed the other 4 Swordstorm blades to dispatch the other stompers similarly. They pierced the stompers along the underbellies until their magic ebbed. Then I directed each of them to finish off their targets. 13 stompers had charged me in total, and the fact that I'd quickly dispatched 5 of their number hadn't diminished the aggression of the rest of them in the least. The massive monsters continued to charge towards me. I waved down on them from above, confident that they were unable to reach me. Then one of them crouched down and jumped. The sight of a 7-ton monster jumping twice its height in the air to gore me with those massive tusks was disturbing. So I flew a little higher to make sure their efforts were in vain. I used the Swordstorm blades to finish off the rest of the stompers that had come after me before doubling back to hunt down the rest of the herd. They seemed to get a sense that they faced a predator they couldn't hope to beat. So when I'd taken about 30 stompers in total, the rest of the herd scattered in terror. Enemy slain, plus 3,000 points. Though the stompers weren't worth many points to me individually anymore, the fact that I'd killed so many of them so quickly meant slaying them let me accumulate a sizable number of points. Pleased with my results, I pulled the stomper carcasses into my dimensional storage and headed back on my way. The Earth Spell Hearts were a prize, but most of their nature zeal would linger in their flesh, where it could either be extracted or eaten directly as part of a meal. I'd leave that for the people back in the Hearthwood to figure out. I encountered several more herds of stompers as I traveled, though none were as large or as aggressive as the first group. Each time I came across them, I took a couple from the herd. Not enough that they wouldn't recover, but enough to fill my dimensional storage several times over and give my clan a couple of workdays. It was unfortunate that Yorick and Cora would be off-world, because the Hearthwood would likely be eating stomper steak for every meal for the foreseeable future, even if I found somebody to trade with. The stompers were hardly the only thing on the plains. While most creatures were only the equivalent of an elf at the zeal accumulation level and not worth my time, there were a handful of predators. One such predator revealed itself while I was culling one of the smaller stomper herds. It had probably been stalking this group since before I'd come along to steal its kill. As my Swordstorm blades took down a stomper, I caught sight of a mass of gray springing forth from the ground and bearing rows of sharpened teeth. The creature was twice the size of a stomper, which made it a genuinely gigantic creature. It had a flat nose and a rough head that looked almost like a boulder, and it had long claws as thick as my fist. It lodged its teeth into my latest kill. Then just as quickly as it appeared, it slipped into a ley line beneath the earth with a stomper in its jaws. I knew enough about traveling through ley lines by now that I could watch the distortions in the earth as it moved. Because of that, I knew right where to cast a stone obelisk to change the monster's path, and it reappeared above the ground with a bewildered expression on its face as it scrambled out of the dirt. Grassland Burrower, Early True Mage, Level 23. I wasn't surprised that the creature was as strong as a true mage if it was something that survived by hunting and eating stompers. The fact that it had used an ability like my unearthly movement spell had caught my attention, though, and I wanted to take a closer look at the creature. I approached on my flying sword, hovering above. My Swordstorm blades followed, still dripping with blood. The Grassland Burrower growled at their approach. Instead of taking an aggressive stance as I expected, it pawed at the ground before it. It sent a blast of earth zeal through the ground, probing for something. It found another ley line not far from the obstructed one it was standing on top of. The moment it did so, it slipped back into the ley line and took this new path, bridged by its zeal. I never even realized such a thing could be done, I muttered as I thought about the implications for my unearthly movement spell. I studied the Grassland Burrower a little more as I boxed it in and cut off all earth ley lines in the area. Out of options, it dropped its prey and charged me for all it was worth. I waited for its approach with Spell Eater in hand. When it leaped into the air with its claws extended, I darted forward and buried my spear into the monster's throat. An instant later, my 5 Swordstorm blades buried themselves in other parts of the monster's body. That hadn't been enough to kill the thing, but I shoved Spell Eater in further until I felt the tip press against the base of its skull. One more thrust, and the monster stopped trying to gore me. Monster slain, plus 3,500 points. Aura fragment collected. Between the stompers I'd already killed and the Grassland Burrower, I collected another large load of points.